you have to start with Oklahoma and Michigan. That is the marquee matchup of this weekend. College game day will be going there. Oklahoma currently a 5.5 point favorite as they will host the Michigan Wolverines, 6:30 p.m. on ESPN. And Trey, I'm kind of conflicted because I have so much hope for both of these programs, and yet after 1 week, again, it's hard to decide which way I actually lean. For Oklahoma, their offense looked amazing compared to what we had last year, but it was against a lesser opponent. For Michigan, same deal. Their offense puts up 34. Bryce Underwood looked very, very competent at quarterback, very athletic. But Michigan didn't exactly blow out New Mexico, right? 17-point victory. And so when I look at this game, I kind of come back to what do we know that these programs are known for? What is their identity? And it's defense on both sides of the ball. Without a doubt, seeing how the opposing quarterback takes on the defense and moves the offense consistently down the field, stays ahead of the chains, picks up those big third downs to keep the drive going. That's what I think I'm going to be most dialed into from Norman on Saturday night.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And defense certainly ruled the day week one. I think defense is going to be a big story in this one as well. One thing I'm watching for is we have joined into this a little bit. The SEC has been much maligned in these big non-conference matchups the last couple of years, but correct me if I'm wrong, it feels like this is one of the first ones where another team has come to the SEC team's house. It's been a lot of the SEC traveling on the road, going to a neutral site. This is the first one where it's at a SEC team's house. So I'm interested to see how that plays a factor. I think the crowd's going to be rocking in Norman. We saw that last year when Tennessee came to town. That was a game where Oklahoma really shouldn't have been as in that game as they were, but the crowd kind of helped them in it with a young Nico Iamaleava figuring things out on the road. I'm a little nervous about Bryce Underwood making his first road start here. He looked very good in a lot of spots. Like I'm thinking about, went back and watched this game today to get ready for this recording. The 2-minute drive right before the half started a little hairy. There were a couple plays that were negative. Then he got his composure. He converted a 3rd and 12 and then was off to the races. Led that drive really, really well. Had a couple nice throws on the run throughout that game. Felt very comfortable in that offense. And of course, he has a game breaker in Justice Haynes to hand the ball off to, who had a massive 3-touchdown day against New Mexico. So lots of help on that side of the ball, but I am worried about him having his first road start against a Brent Venables defense. This feels like a situation where Brent Venables will dial up a lot of interesting pressures, dial up a lot of interesting coverages to confuse Bryce Underwood. And that's why I'm going to take Oklahoma minus the 5.5 here. Feels like a bigger number. Feels like Vegas is definitely leaning towards the Sooners here with that larger number. I'm going to lean into it because I think the defense of Oklahoma combined with John Mateer, who can exploit the mistakes that Michigan was making some mistakes. They're breaking in some new guys on the defensive side of the ball too. So I think those two together are going to make Oklahoma get a big signature win to start this season off.
Yeah, I was tempted to take Michigan plus the points here because I do feel like both teams' defensive identity is going to carry the day. We've seen teams, especially early on in the season, week one was a great example where when you have good on good, the offense has been the side of the ball that's lost out, right? I mean, Texas and Ohio State, their offenses are going to be fine the rest of the year. And yet you have a 14-7 stalemate. But the more I think about it, and the more that I kind of go back to some of the analysis I had in the preseason when I was going over Oklahoma's preview, I wrote Michigan's preview, I believe. The more I think that those exotic looks and the first time for X that Bryce Underwood will experience in Norman on Saturday night, I've called for Oklahoma to win this game throughout the entire summer. My concern with Oklahoma comfortably getting to the number is the offense looked tremendously one-dimensional in the week one opener. John Mateer did it all by himself. He had no help from the running game whatsoever. And Jaden Ott is not fully operational, and I understand all of that. They got a lot of different running backs touches, as you should against a week one cupcake. But I am concerned that if Michigan has an answer for John Mateer throwing the football down the field, then do we start to have the 3 to 4 point game that I've been leaning to the entire time. I'm between a rock and a hard place. I think I'm going to go ahead and side with you. I'll take Oklahoma minus the 5.5, but I think this is a close game. Very similar to how I felt about Clemson and LSU, where I took Clemson to cover that. I figured Clemson would win. I figured they would win by a touchdown. I ended up getting the team wrong. LSU won by a touchdown. So I hope that doesn't end up biting me, but I'll flip from my notes. I'll take Oklahoma minus the 5.5. If it goes bad for Michigan, I think it goes bad early. I think there's probably a point where Oklahoma punches Underwood in the mouth. Maybe they get a couple of big stops and Justice Haynes isn't able to escape from the line of scrimmage like he was against New Mexico early. And suddenly we're back to where's the rhythm? Where's the flow for this Michigan offense? It felt like they established some of that against the Lobos, but it was New Mexico. No disrespect intended. So big time statement needed here from Michigan against Oklahoma. On the other side, though, if Michigan is to go into Norman and pull this out, what's going to be the thing that we talk about on the live show that night?
I think they were able to stay in a positive game script, because what you're talking about right there is Michigan was able to, not only was it just playing New Mexico, but regardless of the opponent, they were able to stay in that positive game script. They got the momentum with Justice Haynes running the football, breaking off a few long runs, a couple long touchdown runs, and then Bryce Underwood really was able to settle in and get some big throws under his belt. But I think staying in a positive game script combined with maybe finding a wide receiver threat to take over and be a dude.
Yeah.
It's great that they have another great tight end. It looks like Marlon Klein is going to be another in the long line of great tight ends at Michigan, but really need to see somebody step up on the outside to be a threat if they're going to go into Norman and knock off the Sooners. I think they can't be just a running back and tight end team to win this one.
Well, write in. Let us know where you're landing on this marquee matchup. If you've got Oklahoma minus the points, if you're riding with Michigan, I think there's a contingent that is probably rooting for Michigan to come down and win this game, get back on top, validate that top 15 ranking. Of course, we're recording this before the new poll come out. I think that poll is relatively useless as it is. The fact that we've got so many people debating who the top team in the country is and arguing about it. I put that out on Twitter. Like, if anybody is weaponizing a week 2 poll against their listeners, like, brother, what on earth are we doing? So I'm just looking for good on good here. I think these are two very solid football teams, and I want to know which of these is going to be a championship contender once we get to the fourth quarter, once the chips are down and it's winning time. So would love to know where you guys, the Jimmys and the Joes, weigh in on that.